Dragonfolk, for the past few weeks, we have actually been trying to figure out what the new mechanic and resource for Part the Mistveil is, called Chi. We were never sure how to make it, how it worked, but after being spoon-fed a little bit during the beginning of April, we now know what the resource is and how it works. Let's go ahead and do a quick rundown of transcending in Flesh and Blood. Welcome on in, Dragonfolk. It is a pleasure to see you here today. We have news for everybody who is looking for information on Part the Mistveil, the next set for Flesh and Blood. We had been wondering whether or not Chi was going to be a resource that you built up over time, or whether or not it was going to be some special thing to put into Soul, and we never really got confirmation for it, obviously because they wanted to keep it a secret until they released the cards. Well, today, with the release of a spoiler card for Preserved Tradition, which I'll go ahead and throw up on the screen right now, you can see how Chi is used. Now, we see Chi as a cost for the 3 new heroes to come in Flesh and Blood's Part the Mistveil, but we did also get a bunch of cool spoilers in regards to some other legendary cards for these heroes, as well as some attack reactions and some other instants in the form of chakras. So what all of these have together is the transcend keyword. You'll see that in most cases, if you've played a blue card, you get to do a transcend, right? You get to transcend into whatever that might be. And with the legendary special instance, right? Well, a lot of people are calling them like domain expansions, like from Jujutsu Kaisen, if you're a fan of that. This is the way in which we had first initially found out how we were going to transcend. These cards, they have very powerful effects, and if you played a blue card, you can go ahead and choose all 3 of their abilities as opposed to just choosing one. And then the backside of all of these cards is a card called Inner Chi. Now, this Inner Chi is that resource that we had been talking about, that we had seen on New and Enigma and Zen, and we were trying to figure out what it does, how it works. And with Preserved Tradition, which I'll go over the card, it is a common, for the record, which means that we are going to be able to use Chi in Commoner and Clash as well, which I'm very, very excited for, because all of these Chi cards seem to be legendary. They have legendary in their text, but they do say that you may only have one of their cards in a constructed deck, which means that for limited purposes, you're probably going to be able to have more, which is really, really great. But essentially, the cards do a thing, and then if you've played a blue, you can also transcend. So transcending, what it does is it takes that legendary card that has the Inner Chi on the back side of it. You go ahead and you flip it like you would to invoke a dragon, for instance, in Dromai's case. And then you go ahead and put it into its owner's hand, flipped. So now you have a free resource card called Inner Chi in your hand, and you can pitch it for resources. You can pitch it for either the Chi resource, or you can pitch it for a regular resource cost, an energy resource cost. Now, I think this is really cool because this means that it's essentially replacing the card, and instead of it going to the graveyard, you instead just return it to your deck as a resource. This is super cool, and the fact that it pitches for Chi or energy is really good for the wizard matchups. It's really good for in case, ice ever comes back. These are going to be decks that are going to be very, very popular into those, just because the amount of blues you're going to have is very, very good. Now, the only downside is that this doesn't have a block value. And obviously the instants seem to be the only things that are actually transcended cards. Like the only cards that allow you to transcend are instants, and instants don't actually have a block value, so that does make sense. But For it to not have a block value, it'll also just be a card to get you to use your hero power every now and again. So essentially this allows that the second cycle of the game will make it very, very special, because you're going to be able to have a very good setup in the beginning of your game, right? Kind of go through your deck, turn those transcend cards into chi if at all possible. And then your next go around, you're going to have a whole bunch of chi cards in which you can pitch them to use any of these heroes' abilities and really just kind of power through. For instance, with Zen, you can go ahead and you can create a Crouching Tiger in your hand and then look for a combo card, and you can play it this turn. That sets you up for a insane starting turn, no matter what, as long as you are a Crouching Tiger build. That is super good, and all for one pitch of a card. You can go ahead and take those things out. Obviously, at a once per turn instant, it's not super great, but it is very, very specific to being able to set up a turn that might have been a dead hand in other situations. You also have a look at New. New actually has the instant ability for 3 chi, but it's as many times as you want. And she gets to look at the top card of your deck, and if it's blue, you can banish it, and then she can play your blue cards from your banish zone until the end of the turn, without paying their energy cost, mind you. But the really cool thing is that with the amount of chi that you can gather and you can stack into your deck, this is actually going to be something that you might be able to put, 3 copies of inner chi in your deck based across different cards, because it seems like all the chi cards are going to be legendary. So even if you have 3 inner chi and towards the end of the game, you're able to go ahead and during your opponent's second cycle, you can just pitch a whole bunch of inner chi to keep using New's ability until you stop banishing blues. If you look at the top card and it's not a blue, then you don't need to pitch for chi anymore, and you can go do anything else and continue on with your hand and pitch that chi to use the cards in your hand to go for a combo, and then swing with their blue cards that they have in their banish. But the fact that New is able to stack them is super good. Enigma also unable to stack her abilities. She's able to create a Spectral Shield token with a +1 counter on it, which is very, very good for attacking with these, but it's not exactly enough to plow through. I think we're really going to need to see what their weapons look like, because the weapons are really going to help push forward the attack plan of these, right? I know Enigma is going to be more defensive, kind of holding back with ward stuff. I know New is going to be a lot more mid-range, probably just going after your opponent's cards, banishing them, using them to her own, devices. And then Zen is probably going to have a pretty big combo line, being able to just pitch one of these, go get a Crouching Tiger, make a Crouching Tiger in hand, and then go get a combo card from deck. You're winning at that point. That is such a solid win. Not to mention the instance that exists prior, the domain expansion ones kind of deal. Those are all incredibly powerful also. They make a bunch of tokens. They allow you to do essentially your chi ability, which is very powerful, and it allows you to transcend at the same time too. I think the only thing that's very interesting about this is that we are going to have to play a lot of blue cards. All of these decks are going to need to play blue cards, because if you're not playing blues, then you're not going to end up actually having that happen. So I'm very curious to see what new cards we all find from this set. I think it's going to be very, very popular, I would say, because even just playing a blue, right, to just like mess around with, you play a blue card with Go Again, or you just play a random blue and then you get to play an instant and you'll get to transcend. This allows you to continue your turns, right? Obviously, if you play a blue card with Go Again and then at instant speed transcend, you then get 3 more resources to your hand, and you're able to go ahead and continue on and do some special stuff with your hero power. It's going to be very, very it's going to be very interesting to see what kind of stuff comes out of the set. But I think everything that we've seen so far, super cool. I think the thing I'm most excited for currently is actually this Preserved Tradition card, because Preserved Tradition is a common. We don't know what the rarities are for the Sacred Arts. We're not sure what their rarities are. I'm assuming they're going to be majestic or they're going to be legendary, right? They all have Marvel versions of themselves, and Preserved Tradition does also have a Marvel version of itself. I do believe it is probably going to be a Japanese exclusive, but I'm not too sure. But the fact that it is a common card means that people like myself who play the budget formats like Commoner and Clash get to actually utilize Chi. Because in Clash, if it's not a rare, a common, or a specialization, we wouldn't be able to use it. In Commoner, you wouldn't be able to use any of it if it wasn't in common. So it's very cool to see that Inner Chi is being put to the common level. It allows people to utilize it in limited formats too, so I'm sure people are going to be finding these, as well as I'm sure other Chi cards in their limited pools, and being able to go ahead and play those cards. So it works super well for limited also, in the fact that you're able to get multiple different Chi cards in your packs, being able to throw them into your deck and still be able to utilize your hero's power without needing to look for specific Chi cards. I wouldn't even be surprised if they came out with a very base level token Chi card, because at that point you're just guaranteeing that you're able to utilize that in a limited format. So curious to see what we find, but I'm very happy to see that we now know what Chi does. If this is what you thought Chi was, go ahead and let me know in the comments down below, or maybe you had a different idea what was going on. And I certainly hope to continue to cover this set. I want to buy a case of it. It looks amazing, and I can't wait to start brewing some Commoner and Clash builds for this set, because I think that knowing that this is just going to become consistent resources in our deck, it really does amplify the power level of these heroes tenfold. So let me know what you think in the comments down below about Inner Chi, and let me know whether or not you're going to be picking up some Marvels for these as well. I know I am, at least if I can get my hands on them. I certainly want to, but it's all very exciting. So thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate your support. You can also like the video and subscribe to the channel if you guys have not already. We do make this kind of flesh and blood content, kind of talking over some of the new news for new sets, as well as talking about budget formats, and sometimes we even talk about Classic Constructed like everybody else does. So if those things interest you, make sure to subscribe. It's totally free. We do also have a channel membership. I'd like to thank our channel member here, Jonathan Bauer, for supporting the channel in such a wonderful way at the gold tier. So thank you so much, Jonathan. I do appreciate you. And I hope to see you all in the next video. All right, everybody, nerd out.